This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. How's everybody doing tonight as we head towards Conference Championship Saturday? We wanted some chaos. We got a little bit of it. Not a lot, but there's still a chance for some, and we'll talk about it tonight. I think it's pretty solid. We'll get into it a little bit. Welcome, everybody watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the groups that allow me to share it. The college groups, guys, are the best, man. We get better engagement from you guys and better engagement from the groups than we get from any place else and any of the other shows we do. And I'm really, really thankful to the people in the college football world and the sports, general sports groups that allow me to share this. Guys like John Gonzalez at the Sports Authorities. Football is life. Greg Rawlings. There's so many more I could talk about, and we will. Oh, guys, a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We will have, good evening, Alan. Good to have you with us early tonight. We'll have here about the bottom of the hour, Lary Sorensen, color analyst from Wake Forest University. We'll talk about the ACC kind of limping in here as the season comes to a close. We'll talk about the ACC championship game, which is a bit of a letdown. So, I tell you, this game could have had huge ramifications if not for South Carolina beating Clemson last week. We'll talk about Michigan, Larry's alma mater. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit with him. We'll talk about some of the coaching moves. If you remember, he and I discussed a few weeks back, Hugh Freeze possibly moving from Liberty into one of these open jobs, and he did after he signed an 8-year extension, which is just unbelievable. And we'll talk about the rest of the playoff field and Larry's thoughts on where we are. Good evening, Augustin. How are you tonight? Good to have you with us. Sorry your Ducks are not going to be playing in the championship of the Pac-12 this weekend, but, you know, not a bad season in Dan Lanning's first year. Good evening, Anthony Price. Good to have you with us. Question. No, Utah cannot move up. No, there's no way Utah can get in. Utah's got – what does Utah have, by the way? I'll jump right to that, I guess. I was going to jump to some scores, but we'll look at – Utah's got 3 losses, right? No way they put a 3-loss team in. We're already going to have some questions about, you know, possibly a 2-loss Alabama team having a way to get in. Not 3 losses. Utah's done. And it's a good football team. They got a shot to go to the Rose Bowl yet, though, for the second year in a row. If they lose, they probably got a better shot to go if they lose than if they win. Pac-12 runner-up gets the Rose Bowl. Well, you know what? For what, Carlos? It's not the biggest news of the day, that's for sure. Florida's nowhere this year. Much of the state of Florida is nowhere this year. Although UCF has got a big game to play for the New Year's Day 6 bowl game from the group of 5, that bowl bid to the Cotton Bowl. They'll play Tulane this weekend. But let's just recap some of the stuff from last week real quick. And again, we'll have Lary Sorensen on at 7:30-ish. The big games last week, Michigan obviously taking Ohio State to the woodshed in the fourth quarter. The game, again, apparently that's the argument that some of the committee made, keeping Ohio State 5th. I said Sunday that it was going to be interesting to see where Ohio State fell, where Alabama was in this rankings. 5 and 6. So the question's going to be, hang on, let me get rid of that noise. I don't think TCU, Georgia, TCU, or Michigan. If they lose, I don't think they're out. I think all three of them will get in if they were to lose this weekend. Ohio State, I'm having trouble. USC, if they lose, it's going to get very interesting, the conversation between a 2-loss USC team, got to their conference championship, Ohio State, 1 loss, Alabama, 2 losses. It's possible USC is out and Ohio State's in if they lose. We'll see. But Michigan took it to them. I mean, look, you can't. They said the final score wasn't as bad. That's what they were trying to tell us. That Ohio State was more. Look at halftime. Ohio State was in that game from halftime on, and early in that game, I thought Ohio State was going to take control, but Michigan just took them apart, running the football, throwing the football. The questions were about JJ McCarthy throwing the football. Did a great job. Great job.
But we also know that
why does that keep coming up? What other games mattered? UCLA. Nah, we're going to get to that game. USC beating Notre Dame pretty handily, 38-27. Her defense played better. Notre Dame's offense isn't world beaters, but again, this is a good victory for USC. Helps their standing. Again, it's going to be interesting. If they lose, it'll be a second time they lost to Utah. We're going to get into all of that. TCU just rolled over Iowa State. I thought Iowa State would give them a game. Now they get a rematch against a Kansas State team they've already beaten. TCU, I think, is in. I think TCU is in, even if they lose. A&M beats LSU to take their chances right away. I don't care if they beat Georgia by 70, which won't happen. LSU's not making the playoff. Sorry, John DeLon. I'll get to your guys' comments here in a second. South Carolina upsetting Clemson 31-30. Neil Bush called it here. I thought Clemson would roll because Clemson needed to roll, and if they had to roll, they'd be in the conversation in that 5, 6, 7 slot. Alabama rolls over Auburn. There's no way. I can't see them taking Alabama. It's happened one other time. Alabama made it without making. I think they're the only school to make it without getting to their conference championship. I believe in 17, I want to say. Tennessee rolls over Vanderbilt. The rest of these games really don't matter. Washington 51-33, still with a shot to go to the Rose Bowl. Utah rolls over Colorado. Colorado rumored to be interested in Deion Sanders. Can't see Deion going there, but the other jobs are filling up, which we'll talk about. Georgia Tech's been filled. Auburn's been filled. UCF beats South Florida only by a little bit. They get a showdown with Tulane this weekend. So that's coming to some of the stuff that happened last week to lead up to the polls, which we'll talk about right now, and the games coming up this weekend. So obviously Georgia remained number 1. Michigan moves up 1 spot to 2. TCU moves up 1 spot to 1. USC moves up 1 spot to 4, or 2 spots to 4. There can't be any argument about this top 4. None. Ohio State 5, Alabama 6. There's no shot for anybody after that. Alabama has got like a 7% chance of getting in. I can't see it. This isn't 2017. This is certainly not that type of team for Alabama. Clemson lost a golden opportunity. I really believe if Clemson had beaten South Carolina up last week, you might have seen them at that 5 spot with a chance to get in with an ACC championship and a USC loss, even a Michigan loss. Let me get into your comments here. Oh, we got a lot already. You guys are busy tonight. Top three should be locked. I think that's accurate. I think they should be locked. Again, TCU probably ought to be careful. They can't get blown out. I can't see any way of dropping any of these three teams out. Georgia's certainly not getting dropped. Michigan should not get dropped. TCU might have a little thing to worry about, maybe, if they had an ugly loss, but it shouldn't be a problem. USC will not have a chance if they lose. They're 2-loss. I know they made it to the conference championship, but I'm not sure. Oh, really? Then he needs to be more happens. more needs to happen to that guy. Let's make sure we don't say the words here, or we'll probably get kicked off of Facebook. So let's not say it live. Hi again, Augustine. More should happen to that kid than just getting kicked off the football team, obviously. CA, how are you tonight? Good to have you with us. Michigan pick worked out for me. I bet, listen, I've been on a roll. Like, usually in the cigar box, we got a limit you can bet, and I usually play my limit in 6 games. 3 pros, 3 college, and I've like 8 for the last 9 in college. Been very, very strong in the cigar box. I bet Michigan last week. I bet who else did I bet? USC, and I bet no, I didn't bet USC actually. I was considering betting 4 games Saturday, and I didn't. Who did I bet? It's amazing I can't remember right from week to week. I bet Tulane. We had an extra bet. Actually, we had 7 picks I could make this week. So I bet Tulane on Friday. I bet Michigan. I bet Oregon State, which was a miracle win. And I don't remember who my 4th bet was that day. That's pretty funny. I had to have one more. It'll come to me. Anyway, Michigan was the pick. It's funny, I know it, and I took them with the points. I thought they'd lose the game, quite honestly. I took the 8 points. So I did not pick Michigan. I liked them with the points, though. Not to win the game. FSU's 9-3. Not a bad season, by the way. Saves Mike Norvell's job there for sure. Deion's not getting that job anytime soon. Nice rebound for FSU after a couple of tough losses early. Carlos and Augustine commenting to each other. Watching TCU, they look faster and more athletic than their opponents. Again, remember who they're playing, though, Carlos. And again, I don't want to berate the Big 12. But one place I have to agree with John DeLon and even you, Carlos, as SEC elitists. SEC's a step above, man. And you know, they get a first-round matchup, let's say, with – well, right now they're going to get Michigan. They might have a puncher's chance against Michigan. I don't think they can keep up with Georgia. It's a really good football team, TCU. I'm happy for Sonny Dykes. I'm happy for Dugan, who's not going to win the Heisman, by the way. We'll get into the Heisman a little bit tonight, too. Caleb Williams won the Heisman Trophy Saturday night. You can mark it down. I said Friday, Michigan can expose Ohio State. I'd have to play back the tape, Carlos, because I probably wasn't listening. But I'll take your word for it. Michigan looks like they have enough depth. Well, they do, because look at they did run the ball. By the way, it isn't like they didn't run the ball. What did they do in the 4th quarter? They must have run for about 200 yards. Alabama's out now. Again, weird stuff happens. I'm telling you right now. If Michigan were to get beat, that makes Ohio State stock drop. They're not going to get beat. But if it should happen, Ohio State stock drop, that brings Alabama probably ahead of Ohio State. Doesn't drop Michigan out, but then they would need USC to lose. There's a shot. Committee won't take Georgia out. Agreed. TCU already beat K-State. That doesn't, again, they should be in. You're right, Alan. But again, don't forget, this is a human committee. This isn't computers. These guys there's a human element here. And if K-State, it doesn't matter that TCU already beat K-State. I don't think it was by much. I don't remember the score. You can look it up and tell me. But if they were to get blown out here, that's the only chance they would have to get out. Let me be clear. I don't think that's going to happen. Why do I have that pixelation in here? Hold on a second. See if I can fix that. Bear with me here, guys. Oh, I see. Is that better? Yeah, that looks better. Hopefully that picture's better now for you guys. Again, I don't think, unless this committee gets drunk Saturday night into Sunday morning, the committee putting Ohio State ahead of Bama shows who they favor. I'm not shocked at that at all. Again, I'll tell you what, Clemson blew a perfect chance for them. I have very little doubt Clemson would have been 5, maybe 6, depending on what they wanted to do at Ohio State. It's irrelevant, but Clemson would have had a shot to find their way into this field with a USC loss. Big loss for Clemson. We'll talk more about that with Lary Sorensen at the bottom of the hour. Deion Sanders should be patient. 2 years, plenty of Power 5 team. I agree. There's no reason. I don't see any way. I said this Sunday. I thought somebody might have been disagreeing. Maybe, I'm not sure who. It doesn't matter. You can disagree with me anytime you want. I don't see any way Deion goes to Colorado. I just don't see it. I mean, you're not going to do a quick turnaround at Colorado. That program's in disarray, and it's not taking over Jackson State, where it's not as hard to turn the program around. Nebraska did sign Matt Rule. Great hiring there, by the way. Hugh Freeze going to Auburn. The Georgia position was filled. We talked about that. We'll talk about all this stuff as we go through here. The interim coach at Georgia Tech got that job, Brent Key, excuse me. Luke Fickell, as we know, goes to Cincinnati. I know somebody posted on one of my group chats about Urban Meyer to Cincinnati. I don't see it. It might have been Kenny. I don't know if Kenny's with us tonight or not. I don't see Urban Meyer going to Cincinnati. Can't see it. A lot of rumor. A big story in The Athletic today, by the way, really pushing Mike Vrabel for the Ohio State job. And this is kind of looking ahead a year, the article was, when Ryan Day loses third straight game to Michigan, that Ohio State should go all in on Mike Vrabel, an alumni, and maybe not a bad idea if I were Ohio State. Listen, I've said for a while, I can see Ryan Day moving to the pros. I said when the Cleveland job comes open, watch out for Ryan Day. Just saying. So anyway, Luke Fickell to Wisconsin from Cincinnati. Good hire for him. Kenny Dillingham is going to get the job at Arizona State. Matt Rule, as we said, great hire for Nebraska. Forget about his struggles in the NFL. Matt Rule is a great college football coach, a great recruiter, and he's turned around 2 programs that were worse off than this one, believe it or not. And we've already talked about Biff Poggi going to Charlotte. So we got some other openings, and there's some other openings to watch for here as well. So South Carolina quarterback just found his mojo, not safe for anyone. Listen, here's what's going to happen based off this game, and maybe he goes and has a great bowl game. Spencer Rattler. Some NFL GM is going to see him and probably fall in love with him and probably get fired within a couple of years. Don Brown, how are you, Don? Good to have you with us. Rattler couldn't throw a football on a bushel pass yet at Oklahoma. He couldn't do it most of this year at South Carolina, Don. Good to have you with us, Don. If you haven't been with us before, welcome. He couldn't do it until the last 3 weeks. He did not play well at South Carolina. South Carolina's had a good year. I've said it all along. Their coach is really, really good. His father was one of the great coaches of all time, not of all time, but at least in Virginia Tech history, right? Frank Beamer. Shane Beamer's done a great job at South Carolina. Some rumors about him moving on here at some point. Doubtful that the Gamecocks can keep him. But Don, you're right. And as I said, you mark my words right now. Spencer Rattler will have another big game in a bowl game, and some NFL GM will fall in love with him and get fired for picking him in a couple of years. Oregon Ducks, we know they're a good team, but unfortunately they're out of the conversation. Maybe they'll see a New Year's Day bowl game. We'll see. I'm not going to get into all of that. We'll get into all that maybe next week. Too much other stuff to chat about. This year he played well, if we're talking about Spencer Rattler, we did. John's probably gone MIA with how bad LSU played. Listen, I never believed LSU would get in with 2 losses. Even if they beat Georgia, they wouldn't get in with 2 losses. They certainly aren't getting in with 3. And I think I said last week, watch out for this game because this is Texas A&M's national championship game, their SEC championship game, their whole season. It's all they had to play for was this one game now, and they spoiled a really good season by Brian Kelly, first season at LSU, to be fair. TCU looks like urban Florida teams with speed on both sides. That's a little bit different. I think Dugan's a better thrower than Tebow. But yeah, I can see it. Speed. Look at speed is what wins. That's what sets the SEC apart from the Big Ten, for instance. Speed wins today, man. Oh, your Michigan pick. What'd you pick? You picked Ohio State Friday morning, I think, didn't you? Maybe not. TCU won by 10 against Kansas State. That's a close game. Don't get blown out is all I'm saying. I don't think they will. Alan, we'll go through these games in a little while. Any thoughts on Mickey Joseph today? I must be missing something. Mickey Joseph. Well, who? I'm probably and your fave. I don't know how to say that. Am I getting? Why do I know the name Mickey Joseph and I'm having a brain fart? Why? I'll check it. Oh, Mickey Joseph. Good call. Probably not a good thing. I knew I saw the name recently. Look, if these stories are never good. Mickey Joseph, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the interim here. Wasn't he the interim head coach? He was at Nebraska after Scott Frost got fired. He wasn't getting this job anyway. And thanks for coming in. Boy, I'm not good with these these screen names that I got to put a bunch of stuff together. I'm 62 years old. But not a good look for him. I mean, I think he's accused of, putting a stranglehold on a woman, if I'm not mistaken. He's facing some serious charges, and good luck to him. He wasn't getting this job, but he's going to have a hard time getting a job at a big time college again with this type of charges. So, and thanks for being with us. Your fave five head. I don't know what that means. I'd love to know what it means. Trent Dilfer to coach UAB. UAB, I heard today, going hot and heavy after Trent Dilfer, who I believe is coaching in high school. I remember I'm pretty sure I saw a clip on YouTube or Facebook somewhere of him coaching a game, and getting in a kid's face to straighten him out when he was not being respectful of the coaching staff. And there's Dan Harris from Let's Talk Sports. Dan, thanks for stopping in and saying hi. Guys, everybody keep a good thought, please, for Dan. Dan's going through some trials and tribulations right now, and he's a good friend of this show and my Let's Talk Sports family. I'm sorry, I'm a good friend of Let's Talk Sports family, hopefully, and he's a good friend of the TGI Sports Talk family. And I've been filling in, doing the show that we normally do together on Fridays, and I supply a little bit of other content there as well as here on Northeast Streaming Sports. So Dan, hope you're doing well, buddy. Hang in there, and everybody, please keep a good thought out there for I don't know what that means. That doesn't look good. Oh, okay. Correct himself. Oh, geez. I thought I was really being berated there, Augustin. Dan says also grew Matt Rule, best hire. A great hire by Nebraska, by the way. If they want to turn this whole thing around, Matt Rule's the way to go. Best hire they could have made. He works in college, but the NFL is a different beast. When you're dealing with grown men making $20 million a year, right? Of course, you see some of that in college now, too, for crying out loud, right, Dan? But great job by Nebraska. Finally. Trev Albert, congratulations. You did a good job. LSU did drop 9 spots, as they should have. They were probably overranked anyway. Off of a win at Alabama. That was a good win. They've had a couple of good wins, but they also got a couple of really bad losses. The loss to Florida State doesn't look quite so bad, but getting blown out at home by Tennessee, not a good look. And there's no way this team winning the SEC title or not with 2 losses, they should have been considered. Yeah, the win against LSU gets some heat off Jimbo, and I still can't see any way Jimbo Fisher or Mel Tucker, for that matter, gets bought out or fired anytime soon, because those buyouts are crazy. $86 million if you want to fire Jimbo Fisher. Now, I know you think those boosters are just made of money, but they're just going to, they'll look for cause or wait a couple of years. And hopefully, well, they've already fired, I believe, their offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. They told Jimbo that he's got to hire a play caller. So they're, similar, except for money, similar to what happened to Jim Harbaugh a couple of years ago in Michigan. Some changes are going to be forced on Jimbo Fisher, and he's not walking away from that money. That's for sure. I don't worry. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're talking about there, Augustin. Sorry. Trent's in Nashville. Trent Dilfer, he is coaching high school, though, I think, Carlos, right? Am I wrong? It means you got a big forehead. I thought you meant I got a big forehead. I got a big forehead, too, so I agree. Listen, I thank you for the compliment, by the way. I do the best I can. I'm just, I'm just an old guy trying to have some fun. So thanks for joining us. I hope you will like, follow, and share the show. Invite your friends. You got a big forehead. I love it. I got a big forehead, too. I thought he was coaching high school. Did you see the video I was talking about, Carlos? I mean, he really got on a kid. Can't remember what he did. He did something disrespectful to either the opposing team, a coach, somebody. And he really lit into this kid. Oh, you don't worry about the playoff on December 4th? Dan, praying for you and miss you, big guy. We all miss Dan. We want Dan to get back in the saddle here fast. Dan's a good man. Trent Dilfer would be a good OC for the Jets and help new quarterback or even the Giants. Yeah, the Giants need an offensive coordinator, right? They got a brand new staff, Carlos. Let's not get into we can debate that Friday. Jets are heading to the playoffs and you want to replace the offensive coordinator. I'm not getting into it. We'll get into it Friday again. Anyway, you think Mike White had such a great day because he's the next coming of Joe Namath? College football play, we know. The college football playoff, by the way, the release of the teams is December 4th. The playoff is not until New Year's Eve. I'm not getting into I'm not getting into that. You want to bring it up Friday, Carlos? I'll be glad to have the debate with you again. Because they're ahead of a lot of other teams. Why am I defending always two teams I hate? Not getting into it. This is a college football show. We'll have Lary Sorensen on here in just a few minutes to talk a little bit about some of the topics we've been talking about here. You're not listening to me, are you? Bring it up Friday. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, how about the Heisman? How about the Heisman chase? We got to get into that a little bit later. Once we talk to Larry about some of these topics, we'll get into each one of the championship games. There's probably around 8 or so. We'll give our outlook on those games. We'll talk a little bit more about the Heisman. Right now, again, I'd love your guys' opinions, and we don't have to get into it now. We can wait until after Larry's on. Well, we're going to get some opinion from Larry on this, too. I think Caleb Williams won the Heisman on Saturday night. And I'd love to know what your opinions are. Somewhere here, here it is. Here's the current odds right now as we speak. Caleb Williams, number 1. 10 first place votes. This is an ESPN poll, by the way. He outpoints Max Duggan, who's second, by 21 points. No first place votes for anybody. I believe Caleb Williams got all the first place votes. I guess there's 10 guys that vote on this. CJ Stroud was third. Bijan Robinson was fourth. Stetson Bennett's fifth. Man, Bryce Young really dropped out of this, didn't he? Caleb Williams is a great player. I think he won it on that 80-yard run Saturday night on national TV in a game USC had to win. I think a great job by Caleb Williams. And I don't know. I think they invite. I don't know if they invite 4 guys now or 5 guys. Stetson Bennett. It'd be nice probably if he got invited, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to lay my head on that. Hooker needs getting the nod for no. What? Hooker gets nod or no? No, he's not going to. He's not even going to get invited to New York. With the way Tennessee's season went down the drain and his season ended, I'm telling you, Caleb Williams won the award Saturday night. Positive. Hello, Lary Sorensen.
Hello, Keith. How are you tonight?
I am awesome. How are you?
Not too. Well, excuse me for being late. It's
okay.
Really, really windy and rainy up here in western North Carolina in the foothills, and my internet seems to be coming and going. So bear with me.
Yeah, you didn't get the real severe weather, right? The tornadoes were south of you. Did they stay? All that stuff? Yeah.
Tornadoes were south, but we got the fringes. So we got a lot of water last night and really, really high winds this afternoon and tonight so far.
Yeah, we were supposed to get them here in New York, upstate New York, but it really didn't get windy today. We got a little rain, but, every time I complain about being here, I see tornadoes, I see floods, I see volcanoes and earthquakes, and I think New York State, upstate.
You could have been in Buffalo.
I could, well, and I'm not out in Buffalo either, so we're safe. That's way west of here. So, Larry,
I gave up a home run in Buffalo, so.
Did you?
Yeah, War Memorial. Remember that old stadium?
I do. Bills played there for a long while.
Yep, with the Budweiser man. They used to dance on top of the dugout.
Yeah.
Good times.
What was that, a AAA?
It was, yes.
Yeah. You were a pitcher for Buffalo.
No, I was not. I was visiting.
You were a visitor. Gotcha. Well, Larry, I wish we had better things to talk about in your neck of the world. It's really a weird ending to the season for the ACC in general. Wake has had a tough second half of the season. which we'll talk a little bit about. But the ACC itself really kind of imploded near the end of the season. Clemson blows they had a great chance. If they win that game last week, they're in the conversation if USC goes down this week.
Absolutely in the conversation, and deservedly so. But they didn't execute. They didn't play well, and they don't deserve to be in the conversation.
You don't when you lose that game. South Carolina's playing better, but you got to win that game, right? So
South Carolina's playing much better. And how about Rattler leaving South Carolina, put his name in the transfer portal?
Did he?
Yeah.
No kidding. I didn't see that. We were just talking about him, and I said he was liable to, once he gets drafted, some guy's going to fall in love with him and get fired in about 2 years in the NFL. But so I didn't know that. I saw
I just was glancing through some things a little bit earlier today, and I believe that's what I saw. I could be wrong too. It wouldn't be the first time this year. It's been a really unusual year. You talk about how things fell apart for the ACC. Yeah. It used to be you kind of had an idea about what you thought was going to happen. That's kind of gone up in smoke here in the last 2 months, really. And now we're starting the basketball season, and we're looking at some of these teams losing, and we're scratching our head again. It looks like there's just games that really come out of nowhere to surprise you.
Just to follow up on your Spencer Rattler news flash, there are heavy rumors. He has not entered yet, but there are rumors that he is, and it sounds like from the way his dad is screaming from the mountains, he probably will be. He says he's not, so he probably is.
Well, it doesn't officially open till the 5th, right?
That's true.
Well,
I guess
there'll be a lot of stuff coming up between now and then.
I know McNamara from your alma mater has decided to enter that portal as well. You have to. Larry, we got to jump into that. I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit in my conversation. You and I talked not just a few weeks ago about Hugh Freeze maybe moving around, maybe Auburn, blah, 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 probably staying in the Southeast and whatever, right? And I said, what a great job he did. And just a day later, 2 days later, you text me and said he signed, I think, an 8-year extension. Well, these 8-year extensions are getting shorter and shorter because it means nothing.
No, it means absolutely nothing. And for people that are saying, how can a kid think about getting into the transfer portal? I completely, totally understand and don't blame them in the slightest, because when coaches sign extensions and then are gone a month and a half into their extension at a school, it's just the world is upside down is what it is. And it's a shame.
I mean, how do any parents trust anybody that comes in their living room and tells their kid, I'll be here 4 years, when you don't even know if he'll be there 4 weeks, for crying out loud?
You think that the character of the coach. I mean, Hugh Freeze is a guy that was getting a second chance himself, so and it's led to a lot of speculation going to Auburn on whether or not Auburn should take him. So it's a different business. It's just a different business now, and I guess we all have to make the adjustment and understand that that's what it is. Funny story, after Wake Forest won their last home game, Sam Hartman was on the ACC network, had their local show there, and they had Sam Hartman on. And Sam, earlier in the week, they asked him about whether or not he was going – there's a chance he would come back, and he always gives his true answer underneath his breath, and then he goes into coach talk, okay? So he went, no shot. Well, you never know what's going to happen. It's a long, but no shot were the first things. So on the ACC Huddle, they call it, Mark Richt, the former coach, said to him, now, don't take this seriously, but seriously, if somebody offered you $1 million of NIL money, would you think about staying or transferring to another school? And he went, his eyes got about this big around, and he doesn't know where he's going to go in the draft, but I believe that he's going to enter the NFL draft, although there are a lot of conversations about Florida, and I see Florida just lost a quarterback with young Kitna. So
that'd be interesting. I mean, again, guys, I'm not a fan of that, right? The portal I get. If your coach leaves, you ought to be able to do whatever you got to do. I mean, you can't make a kid stay like they used to. That was terrible. Or sit out a year.
Yeah.
But just to kind of move around like a free agent, I'm not in favor of that. It's not good for the game.
I agree with you. And what's funny is that it's you and me sitting around on a Wednesday night, which is where a lot of these things come from. Not necessarily you and I personally, but the guys that are just throwing rumors out there that get picked up and somebody reports that it was reported that, and that's how that gets started. So
Yeah,
it's become an interesting process. It really is something. I'll tell you what makes it difficult is when you're broadcasting a game and you've got to announce a player. And first of all, we don't know if he's a redshirt junior, sophomore, senior, regular senior because COVID and what he's in his 5th year, but he's only played 3. He's got 5 years of eligibility left, and he's been at 4 different colleges.
Yeah, he's 31 years old.
You try to sort out his lineage, and it really gets tough for the 2 guys that are just trying to call a football game.
Oh, gosh. I mean, Sam Hartman's got to be getting close to 30 for crying out loud. It feels like.
It seems like it. But interestingly enough, he tied the record for most touchdown passes, tied Taj Boyd this weekend with 107 in exactly the same amount of games.
Really?
That Taj Boyd played, yeah. And Sam has another year of eligibility.
Amazing. I hope he comes back there one more year. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about coaches. I read something, we know that Shaw resigned at Stanford, and a name that I read was possibly they're interested in talking to is Dave Clawson. You think there's any, we talked about this last year with a few jobs with Dave Clawson. You think he's got any interest of going all the way across the country? I mean, it's a good academic school like Wake Forest, but
great academic school, great athletic department. I think it is the kind of situation that would appeal to Dave Clawson because great academics, do things the right way, graduate players, outstanding athletic department. The one thing I don't think that they have done yet is they haven't really sold themselves to football to say, we're going to compete. We're going to do the facilities. We're going to do the things that are necessary that everybody else is doing. And, that was one of the things about Wake Forest is he made sure that they were willing to invest the money into all the ancillary things, the coaches, the coaching staff money and everything else. And they would, Stanford would have to commit to that. And I don't know that Stanford is really ready to go that route yet.
Yeah, it's funny that they had a great run through obviously Jim Harbaugh's tenure there, and then the first few years, 5 years of Shaw's regime were really good, and they just kind of fell off the map here the last 4 years.
It's hard. It's tough at those kind of schools. I was surprised. Stanford only has, I think, about 72 or 7,800 students. For some reason, I think it's 7,280 maybe. But for some reason, I thought it was a bigger school than that. I thought it was more on the Northwestern type, into the teens, but it's not. It's just a couple thousand more than Wake Forest has. Tuition around the same, but California money doesn't go as far as North Carolina money goes either.
Well, that's for sure. And when you combine the facilities where you've got to keep up with the Joneses or you're not going to be able to compete, right, for kids. And you add that to the academic standards, it's hard to keep pace.
It really is. And back to Wake Forest again, that's one of the things they're going through. And they just started a collective that the board of directors of whom is all the real heavy money donors, from all the different sports that are on the board of directors of it, so that they can try to do things so that Wake Forest can try to keep up with the North Carolinas of the world.
Interesting. And speaking of Wake Forest, so a tough finish to the season. They are still going to get to a bowl game. I haven't really, to be honest, looked at the second tier bowls. I've been concentrating obviously on the playoff and the New Year's Day Bowl race. Where are they projected to go? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's kind of sounding like, to me, either the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, which would be December 17th at 11 o'clock in the morning at Fenway. And, I love Fenway Park. I've got dents on the wall that I gave up for all the different guys. So
they got a bill waiting for you. They got a bill waiting for you when you get there.
Yeah, I'm welcomed with open arms into Fenway. I guarantee you that. But or possibly the Military Bowl in Annapolis, which I think would be fabulous because after having been to West Point last year, I'd really love to get to Annapolis and see that. So, selfishly speaking.
We had a little debate last week or the week before on this show about all the bowl games, 40 bowl games. And to me, there's way too many, but I know there's an advantage too, because schools like Wake Forest or even UConn, let's say, who's, had a good year, they're bowl eligible. they get to practice and have the kids around for another month or whatever, and that's really good for a program heading into next year, right? So maybe I'm too harsh about these lower tier bowl games. I don't know.
Well, a couple of things about it. First of all, and I remember when I was at the University of Michigan, the bowl was a reward. It was a reward for what you did. Generally, it was at a warmer place, a warmer locale. Of course, there's a lot of warmer locales in Ann Arbor anytime after November 15th. But, it was a special thing. And the extra practice was really the byproduct that the coaches loved.
Right.
In the example of the school that I work for, Wake Forest, it's a chance for the young guys to get a lot more reps than they did during the regular practice season, because all your veterans, the older guys, were the ones that were taking all the reps. So from that standpoint, it's a great help. Financially, obviously, it's a great help as they throw more money into a kitty that you get to split with the other teams in your league. There are just so many of them, and they are semi-meaningless, absolutely.
It's funny, and I was probably too hard because I was just going, gone, this bowl, gone, this bowl, gone.
But I'm guessing the Fenway Bowl and the Military Bowl were two of the ones gone.
The Fenway Bowl, the Pinstripe Bowl. No, I wouldn't get rid of the Military Bowls. I wouldn't, that's it's got a different context to it to me. But at least one of the what's the Cheez-Its bowls? There's two Cheez-It bowls. How many Cheez-It bowls do I need? Jeez.
And one of them is a really good bowl. We almost, Wake Forest for a while thought they might be going there. I'll tell you one thing about like as you mentioned, the Military Bowls, and Wake Forest went up there a couple of years ago to play and beat Temple up there. Yeah. But my partner Stan Cotton said that they took the kids through all of the museums and everything else, and the appreciation that they gained for our military and the life lesson that they learned was really something special to go through that process. So from that standpoint, you love to see it when there's more to it than just let's play another exhibition game so that the conference can make more money.
Right. I'm probably too hard on. I get, because there is a lot, as you said, ancillary things that I'm not really taking into account, and I should. Reacting emotionally, as I always do. So real quick, I'm noticing as we were talking about hires. I mentioned before you came on, Trent Dilfer being rumored to be UAB being after him. I'm reading now he's been hired. That's an interesting. UAB's program has really stepped up in the last few years. He's never coached anywhere but high school, Trent Dilfer. I think it's an interesting hire.
Well, they've gone through a lot of different phases with that program. Yeah. And I think the opportunity to get some stability with the guy that's been there, that knows what it takes at all the different levels, knows the ins and outs, certainly of the game. He's known as a fine mind, offensive mind inside the game. He's got a lot of respect around the country for that. You look at some of the fits. I mean, primetime in Colorado, really? Can you see that?
No, he's not going to Colorado. I mean, you or I got a better chance of going to Colorado than Dion, I think. What's he going to do out there?
Well, and going back to the fit, and we talked about Dave Clawson being the fit perfectly for Wake Forest or a Notre Dame or a Stanford or a Rice or a school like that. But primetime in Colorado doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me. And you watch some of these hires and you say, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
So Dion's going to be at Jackson State next year. I would think he's going to wait for. I think he's going to wait for a Power 5 in the Southeast somewhere.
Now, one of those big Florida schools. You never know.
Yeah, well, he probably had his sights set on Florida State this year, thinking they were going to, be in the tank again, and Mike Norvell be out. But they had a pretty good year, 9-3. That's not, especially they had a couple bad losses early.
Boy, and they've been playing so well. We went down there and they played a pretty good game against us. We beat them by 10. Wake Forest did, but might have been Wake Forest's best game of the year. The Clemson game, the double overtime loss, or the Florida State game. But it was a great game, and they have played very, very well from that point on.
I got to get into the playoff with you a little bit. Again, we as we talked about, Clemson blows I've been rooting for chaos here, right? Because I want to get the 12 teams before 2026 or whatever it's scheduled for. So there's still a chance for some chaos. I mean, nobody can argue with the 4 teams right now, I don't think. But And I think the top three are safe, even if they were to lose, I think.
I agree with that.
But USC, they're not going to get in if they lose a second time to Utah. And it's going to open up the door for all kinds of chaos and even put Alabama back in a conversation, which is nuts.
I'll be honest with you. I would hate to see a 2-loss team get in with 1-loss teams still out there.
Exactly.
Because to me, you lost twice. And that means 2 Saturdays you weren't one of the best teams, and you've got that in you. So I don't think that they should take a 2-loss team in there if they don't have to.
I thought it would be interesting to see how far Ohio State fell after losing to your alma mater. They had to leave them in the top 6 to give them a chance to get back in. But I was a little surprised at 5. I read today the committee said some of the guys on the committee were arguing, well, they were in the game most of the game until halftime. They were run out of the building in the second half.
Well, and 7 minutes into the third quarter, they were still in it, but then it all kind of fell apart. The thing about Ohio State is their schedule wasn't that great. Some of the teams that they beat and didn't blow out earlier in the year, so I was surprised that they stayed at 5. I was surprised that Michigan beat them that badly, to be honest with you. That was a little bit of a shocker to me too, especially with Corum being injured.
Well,
we had a Tennessee fan and we had a Michigan fan sitting in our Wake Forest booth, and the athletic director walked in. He said, "What the heck's going on here?" looking at our monitors without any ACC games going on.
What are your thoughts about your alma mater? I mean, again, they were kind of being berated a little bit for their non-conference schedule this year, and I think they played Hawaii, Colorado State, and I don't remember who the third. Maybe it was UConn. I don't even know, but it was
UConn. Actually, I think it was early when UConn wasn't playing well, but it was not a great schedule, no doubt about it. But it's a team that found a number of different ways. One of the things that I think they have going for them now is they believe they can win games in a number of different ways. Their quarterback can do some things. They've got 2 great running backs that can do a lot of things. They've got some good receivers. The defense has been excellent all season, so they've got good confidence in that. So I think they've got confidence that they're versatile and can answer any challenges. And then they came out anytime you smoke somebody the second half and make adjustments, you got to feel good about that.
Well, the big questions going into this game were J.J. McCarthy, and if they needed to throw the football, could he do it? And I think he more than showed he could do it. Do you like it's hard. It's easy to say yes now, I suppose, after the fact. This was obviously the right decision to go from McNamara to McCarthy because he's more athletic. The questions were whether you could throw the football. Was this a matter, you think, of Ohio State's defense, or is McCarthy that kind of quarterback who can help you? It didn't look like it against Illinois the week before. They were lucky to get out of there alive, but he threw the ball great, I thought, Saturday.
He threw a pass, might have been the first game of the year, second game of the year, across field, downfield, about 45 yards or so, and just boop, just kind of, the flickability is what I call it jokingly when we're doing our broadcast. And the ball was, just a little bit above head high all the way down. He's just got magnificent physical talent, NFL talent, no question about it. And he's added the little scramble ability now, so he's able to get around some and win some games. I hated the way that they went into it with the 2 quarterbacks, and here's your game to prove yourself. Here's your game to prove yourself. I didn't think that was fair to McNamara at all. But that they didn't call and ask my opinion either. So they've come up with the guy that they believe is a guy, and I think he's a superior talent. I think his ceiling is so high that he's gonna do some tremendous things there the next couple of years.
I feel like with him at the helm, they got a better chance because he's a better athlete, I think, than McNamara. As far as being a pure quarterback, maybe not. We'll see. But does it give him a better chance against a team from the SEC than it would have with McCarthy, you think?
Well, anytime you've got a quarterback that can make chicken salad out of chicken whatever, you're better off with that guy. And those are the ones that the coaches don't get much sleep over. When you're facing the Malik Cunninghams, the Travis down at Florida and at Florida State, guys like that have the ability to make something when there's 3 guys around him and all of a sudden he's 20 yards downfield before you know it. Those are the really scary people. And I think this kid's got a chance to have some of that coming up in his future.
So as a Michigan guy, do you feel more comfortable going into, let's assume we get there. I don't want to jinx you. I don't think there's any way Michigan doesn't get there. You feel more comfortable going into the playoff this year than you did last year with a chance to actually come out victorious?
I absolutely do think so, but mostly because I don't think Georgia's as good as they were last year.
Right.
It's more hinged on that. And I'm not sure Michigan's any better than they were last year either. I'm not sure that there's the super teams like we thought we had a couple of in last year's playoff system. But Georgia, has weathered the storm, so to speak, and seems to be playing very well. But you can't deny what Michigan has done either. And they seem to be on a real confidence high right now as well, which is always a great, great thing to have in your little bag of tricks going in. When you believe you can do it, you're a lot closer to doing it.
I made an argument here, the last couple of weeks, both weeks, that if we had a 12-team tournament this year, that 11 of those teams, I might leave out, say, Tulane or UCF, but maybe I can't. They could win a game. But I would argue that there'd be 11 teams with a chance to win a national championship if you had 12 teams this year.
Yeah, I think if ever you really saw a Cinderella story for a team that could win it, it would be in a year like this. And I don't know, Keith, maybe that's what we're going to see going forward. Maybe we have reached the point because of the transfer portal and the way that coaches have become general managers with their rosters to be able to fill holes. Maybe we've come to the point where you can strengthen your team enough to be competitive year after year by taking select guys, not major overhauls, because I don't think that model is sustainable, but by taking select guys to fill little patches where you need depth. You need the third guy to be available at different points in time during the season. And it seems like that's what it always comes down to. Man, this last couple of weeks, I turn on games and watching it, and Wake Forest is a great example. All four starters in the defensive backfield on the bench, 3 of them not dressed. And the other one is maybe game time decision. Nope. And it seems like the defensive backs, and I talked to the Wake cornerback coach, James Adams, and the defensive backs have just taken a beating this year for some reason in college football.
Well, I mean, they got their work cut out for them because, all the rules are against the defenses. We know that, right? You can't defend a guy. It's almost impossible today.
And you go get that running back that's 225 with a full head of steam coming at you, and you're trying to fill in a hole somewhere and bring him down. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to root your Wolverines on this week. They've been very good to me recently in my extracurricular activities, if you get what I'm saying.
I'm betting that shirt. I'm betting that logo on your shirt has not been that good to you this year.
Oh no, my God, what an ugly! You know what?
I thought they were going to be terrific at the meetings this summer when I went to the ACC meetings and Cristobal got up and the players were psyched and I really thought they were going to roll over in that division.
They got to be. I would think they're one of the biggest disappointments in the ACC, at least, if not college football.
In the country.
Yeah, Van Dyke has cost himself tens of millions of dollars this year, unless he comes back next year and regroups. He's cost himself a lot of money this year.
He's got to win his job first.
Yeah, I mean, he come into the season with Heisman hype and first-round draft pick.
And NILs coming out of
Yeah. I wonder if that stuff matters, right? I mean, does that incentivize you to do well because you've already got money coming in?
I think it absolutely does. And if you go back to the baseball side, and even you go back to my career in baseball, I won 18 games, my first full season in the big leagues, made the All-Star team, pitched 3 innings in the All-Star game, and came back the next year and had, instead of 280 innings, had 235 innings. Instead of 18 wins, had 15 wins. And there are just a lot of other distractions. You think it's going to be the same thing. All I've got to do is, go out there and throw it, and guys are going to make outs for me. And as my partner again always likes to say, and Skip Prosser, the former Wake basketball coach, said, those guys are on scholarship too.
Great point. Great point.
The other team is on scholarship too.
Great point. Larry, thanks for coming in tonight. We'll talk to you again soon. And, I wish Wake had a better year. I wish the ACC was in. I would love to have been talking to you about Clemson's chances to crack the top 4 this week. I really thought we were going to have that opportunity, and we didn't get it. But you know what? It's still a good league, and I want to see it rebound next year. Obviously, I want to see the U rebound a little myself too. But
it'll be fun, and the off season is when we all get optimistic again. So that'll be a great thing. Watch for the Deeks going to Omaha this year in baseball. I do Wake Forest on TV, so
yeah,
tune into that if you want to see me call a baseball game. And it'll be fun. And hey, I might be in Fenway. I might be in Boston December 17th. I don't know how far that is from where you live, but
I got about 3 hours. That's all, maybe tops to Fenway. So you never know. Maybe we'll check the schedule. And I got to see what's that, like on a Tuesday. You said at 11 in the morning or something.
Oh, it's a Saturday. But,
it's a Saturday.
I believe it's a Saturday, but it's 11 o'clock in the morning, December 17th. And I don't know that's where that's where Wake Forest is going. That's the early speculation.
Well, we'll check it out. Can't they go to Florida and I'll fly down there? I'll talk to my wife and I'll be right back. I gotta get some bread down in Tallahassee or someplace. So, Larry, thanks for coming in as always. I love your insight and on Wake Forest, the ACC, and all of college football. You're always a breath of fresh air.
Love talking with you. You take care.
All right, we'll have you on again soon. Talk to you soon. The great Lary Sorensen from Wake Forest. We love having Larry in, one of the great friends of the show, and he's always got a great perspective on things. And great baseball player too, by the way. He talks a little about his career. He was, for a little while, one of the better pitchers in the American League. And if you're as old as me, you'll remember that. If you're not, you wouldn't. I missed a couple of comments here, but we'll pick them up here. Hang on. Don Brown, go Amsterdam Rams. What's the Don is Amsterdam can't still be in the football playoffs, can they? Yeah, I'm from the area, Don. If you don't know, I grew up in Perth and lived in Amsterdam for a long time, and certainly followed the Rams. And I've lost track of the program a little bit. I know John Homich is the coach there, and always wished him well. Good kid. When I knew him when he was in high school, and I know his dad well, and or at least do his dad well. Lost touch with him a little bit as I moved to East Greenbush. But I don't think the Rams are still alive, are they? If you're still with us, Don. We need a rice bowl and a cereal bowl. Don't say it, Carlos. We'll get it. We already got a bunch of cereal name bowls, don't we? CA, what does everybody think about the 4-seed playoff system for bowls while the 8 others have 4 home games and quarterfinals for BCS? Huh? So you're talking about the 12. Listen, I want to get to 12 now. I'd rather see 16. I don't like the idea of buys. So I don't think 8 was enough. The only reason I'm unhappy at 12 is I don't like the buys. And I'd rather get to 16, but I can't talk about it because I'll get sued from that kid in his basement, his mother's basement. So anyway, again, it would be so exciting. We had a discussion, a kind of heated discussion with John DeLon last week, that expanding the playoffs was just, an expansion of the participation trophy attitude. And I don't agree with that even a little bit, by the way. Not even a little bit do I agree with that. I am one of the, participation trophies are for just, hey, thanks for showing up. Teams that get in a 12-team playoff are going to have earned their way there and played good football, and most of them are going to be first or second place in their league. You're not inviting the Vanderbilts of the world. The teams that were scraping the bottom of the barrel, that's giving a team a participation trophy. You still got to get in it, and you've got to earn victory. Don't agree with that statement at all, as I told CA, or not CA, sorry, CA, John DeLon last week, who's not with us this week. I hope he's okay after that LSU loss last week. Eiserman has Detroit moving in the right direction. How do we get on hockey here? CA, make sure we're going to, once we get through college football on Sundays, the Stream of Consciousness show, we'll have Jim Beringer on, who's the king of hockey, and we'll get into all of that. There should be a pickle bowl. Boone Pickens Stadium has undergone is going to undergo $55 million worth of renovations starting after this season. I think we had talked about that earlier in the season, Alan. Boone Pickens, one of the great benefactors for Oklahoma State. You can probably directly tie their rise in competitiveness, consistent competitiveness in the Big 12 and even nationwide to T-Bone Pickens becoming more involved as much as Mike Gundy getting involved. Money speaks, as my buddy Kenny likes to say. Basement Bob. It's 12 teams out of 135. Oh, no, look at Alan. I as I said last week when John said that, it's not even close. It's not even an analogy that makes any sense in the world. It's not like you're giving a last place team a trophy. And by the way, you get into a 12-team tournament, a 16-team tournament, you're not getting any trophies unless you win it all. So, and by the way, pretty much every league, whether we're talking about kids, they're playing tournaments to get in. It's not all undefeated teams that play in tournaments that kids get trophies for once they win them, let's say. And nobody hates a participation trophy syndrome more than me, because I think it makes for weak adults. This isn't even close to what we're talking about. So, and John's not here to defend himself. I'll leave him alone. Good chance it'll be like it is now, 4 seeds waiting on 4 out of 8. Yes, that is correct. Well, no, it'd be 5 through 12. CA, we're all set for a 12-team playoffs, just a matter of when it starts. 26 is the current date because of TV contracts and whatnot, mostly. But there is some talk about moving it up to 24. And maybe if some crazy stuff happens this weekend in the committee room Sunday morning, it'll get moved up to next year. But there will be 12 teams in. The first 4 teams will get byes. 5 through 12 will play in the first round of that playoff, and then I think those 5 through 12, the higher ranked team will get the home game. I don't know if that's all been straightened out yet or not. They do want to use the bowl system for more of these games, and I think they should. But then I'm sure once we get to the final 4, we'll certainly be using the big bowl game, similar to what they do now. But there's still some stuff to be worked out there. Let's take a look, if we can. Let's take a look at these games coming up this weekend, and I want to talk about what my thoughts are and your thoughts are on the. I just want top 25. I want them all. Friday, we're going to go through every conference championship game. I guess this is interesting. I don't know what this game is. Friday, Akron and Buffalo. That cannot be the championship game. I don't know. I guess that's just a game that needed to be made up, being played in Buffalo. So whatever. Conference USA, an underrated Texas San Antonio team who if you follow this show, I've been a big backer of them out of the group of 5 schools. I thought they may have a shot to get that New Year's Day 6 opportunity when the season started. 10-2, not quite as good as they were last year, but still a good season going against North Texas. That game will be at the Alamo Dome, 7:30 on Friday. I like Texas San Antonio here. And the Pac-12 championship game will also be early. It'll be Friday night, 8 o'clock on Fox, who, by the way, we're still blacked out of Fox up here if you got DirecTV. It's been about 2 months, I think. Got to watch them on the antenna, which fortunately I can do because I'm close enough to the station. But ridiculous. Write your congressman. So anyway, number 11, Utah at number 4, USC. I think too much Caleb Williams. I think if you watch the first game, it was in Utah. I think that helped. This will be in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, by the way, so neutral field. Home field advantage, I think, really helped Utah in this first matchup. And USC played well as an underdog and had a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter and made some mistakes. I think they learned. Caleb Williams is playing some great football. As I said, I believe he won the Heisman Trophy Saturday night against Notre Dame. I think that put that trophy away. Saturday, Kansas State at number 3 TCU. I'm tired of picking against TCU. I'm going to say they made a statement last week against Iowa State. I think they make another statement against Kansas State here. I do think they'll probably finish with the 4th. I think they'll finish 4th. I think USC wins. I think they're going to go ahead of them in the 3rd. So you might have a Georgia TCU matchup, which is probably the worst matchup TCU could get. So their playoff dream may end quickly, but they've had a great season. Sonny Dykes been around a long time. He deserves this. He's been a good coach in a lot of places. And this is a once-in-a-lifetime, maybe not, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But I think they'll win handily in this game. Kansas State's had a pretty good year at 9-3. In the MAC championship, Toledo and Ohio will face off in Ford Field. You know, the MAC has some good football. Nobody watches it, unfortunately, but watch this game because I think you'll see some fun. I like Toledo. They'll be an underdog, I think. I like Toledo to win this game. Interesting, at 3:30 or 3 o'clock at Aggie Memorial Stadium in Las Cruces, New Mexico, Valparaiso faces off against New Mexico State. Not a championship game. ESPN has Coastal Carolina and Troy facing off in the Sun Belt Conference, another underrated conference. Coastal Carolina's had a great run. They've been without their quarterback, McCall, here for a few weeks now. I'll get your comments, guys, here in a second, by the way. This will be at Veterans Memorial Stadium in Troy, Alabama. So basically a home game for Troy. I'm going to have to take Troy here. Love Coastal Carolina. Love what they've done here with this program. And this conference has gotten much better. They're going to lose a few guys, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might be Conference USA is going to lose some guys to the American Conference next year as well. We'll talk more about that during the offseason. LSU will face Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. LSU, you're going to get beat up. Won't even be close. In a fun game, I think UCF gets a rematch against Tulane. I believe this game was at Tulane the last time as well. And I think UCF won 38-31, I want to say. I bet Tulane that day. I think Tulane gets revenge here, gets the New Year's Day 6 Bowl, plays in a Cotton Bowl against maybe Tennessee. It'll be an interesting game here. But this is at Ullman Stadium in New Orleans. This will be 4 o'clock on ABC. 4:30, great day of football, right? The Mountain West Championship game, Fresno State at Boise State. Boise State, not quite the semi-power they'd become, a few years back, but still a really good football team. Has rebounded from a disappointing season, a couple of seasons, to go 8-0 in the Mountain West and 9-3 overall. I like Boise State here to take the Mountain West Championship. And then two big ones. Well, the one's not quite as big as it could have been. Purdue will face off against Michigan. Purdue will be a big underdog in this game. Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I think Michigan is going to have their way with Purdue here. I don't think there'll be any letdown here. Michigan wants to win this. I think Michigan wants to impress. I think Michigan wants to show that maybe they deserve the number 1 overall ranking, and it's still possible they could get it. Sorry, Rick Sherlock. And in a game that should have been very important, and Clemson would have known exactly where they stood most likely. The ACC championship game at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, Clemson in North Carolina. I'm going to take Drake May in North Carolina here. I think Clemson's going to be totally deflated after blowing such a great opportunity against South Carolina last week. It would have taken a USC loss for them to be alive, but that's a possibility. And I think Clemson will have the wind taken out of its sails here. And I think North Carolina and the best freshman in the country, Drake May, took himself out of the Heisman chase the last couple of weeks, unfortunately. But he is a great quarterback, and he will be probably the odds-on favorite for the Heisman next year. So let's see what else we got here. Beastman Bob. I think we got that. Good chance. We already got that. NHL on TNT. Locking Troy over Coastal Carolina. I like that. I don't know if I give him a lock. You know what my lock's going to be? Here's my lock. Well, the lock is easy, right? Michigan, big, but too easy. I'll go somewhere else harder. I'm going to say Tulane is my lock. And for an upset, I'll take North Carolina over Clemson. I like that. Another one, I'll give you a possibility. I don't know if I got another possibility. Yeah, I really don't. Maybe North Texas over UTSA. Be careful. I like UTSA, but North Texas has beaten some teams this year. I'll take your North Carolina as my upset pick as well. I see. So you're saying I think USC with a win. I think USC passes TCU. Just a feeling I have, Alan. Nothing to go on other than a great stretch run by USC. If TCU wins convincingly or close to convincingly as they did last week, then maybe they'll get to that 3 spot. They'll keep that 3 spot. I think there's a possibility USC will take them. And if TCU gets Georgia that first round, it's a bad matchup. I'm going to say right now, I also think there's a chance Michigan goes to number 1. Let me see. How close? Let's take a look at something here. They don't do any points. So if I went by points on the AP side, right? Michigan's only 54 points behind Georgia, 58-5 in first place. So it's going to be very tough. A close Georgia LSU game and a Michigan blowout could push Michigan to 1. So let's just say that happens. I'm going to go out and say Michigan 1, Georgia 2, USC 3, TCU 4. In which case TCU would get Michigan. Probably not a bad matchup for TCU. TCU and USC would be a lot of fun. We're not going to get that game unless they both win. You're going to see Georgia and Michigan get those first 2 spots for sure. I would say, if somebody slips up. USC and KS. You lost me. You lost me there. You lost me. TCU, Georgia. That's what I think it'll be. This is what I like as well. And I'm assuming you're ranking them the same way I am. Actually, no. I changed up. Right. I do think that TCU will fall behind USC, so I'd like that part of it. I do have Michigan getting past Georgia, though. That's going to be a little bit more problematic, I think, to happen, though. It doesn't really matter. I think USC or TCU could give Georgia a better game than Ohio State or Bama. Well, Ohio State and Bama is not going to be in. And again, I mean, that brings up the conversation, too, in our last few minutes here. You know, let's just assume USC loses. Let's just assume, again, the top 3 win. USC loses a second time to Utah. They're not getting in. In that case, I think a 1-loss Ohio State's got to get in. over Alabama, which is very interesting. Alan, you're my ombudsman usually, although you let me down on Oklahoma last weekend. I think one time, I want to say it was 2017, but I could be wrong. Alabama got in. The only time a team who did not go to their conference championship game got in was Alabama, and I want to say 2017, and it was at the expense of Ohio State, who went to the Big Ten championship game and lost. I could be wrong, but I think and it would be interesting if Ohio State were to turn the tables this year. USC loses, Ohio State jumps to 4, Alabama left behind. There's no way Alabama should be considered over Ohio State. No way. 2 losses versus 1. This is a power conference. Sorry, SEC guys, not buying it. You lost to a 3-loss LSU team. Ohio State lost to an undefeated Michigan team only. I understand the SEC is a better league overall. Just saying. Oh, Kansas State. Thank you, Alan. Okay. Yes. So what's your call here then, Kate? You're picking those 2. Oh, USC and K-State be your upset. I got you now. We gotten past that. I wasn't sure what we were talking about. So that's a good one, though. Kansas State could give them a go. They only beat them by 10. It's hard to beat teams twice in a year. It's not easy. But I do think TCU wins this game. And again, it's going to be a litmus test. We just talked about Ohio State. Again, I think getting left out after losing the Big Ten championship game, and Alabama not reaching the SEC championship game, getting left out. Same kind of thing could happen to TCU here. 1 loss. That was a 1-loss Ohio State team. I think to a 2-loss Alabama team. Oh, I could be wrong, but we'll see. The rest of this field's got no shot, right? 7 on down. Clemson at 9. How much has Clemson got to be kicking themselves in the butt? All they have to do, I said they needed style points. They probably didn't even need style points, just a win last week, and they'd be 5. They'd be ranked 5th. There's no doubt in my mind Clemson's ranked 5th this week if they had won last week against South Carolina. Then they're in prime position to leapfrog USC or TCU possibly by winning the ACC championship and that other team losing. The point's moot now, though. There's Alan with my backed up. Alabama lost to Auburn and got in at 4. Georgia beat Auburn. Yeah, they lost to Auburn and didn't get in. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Alan, that same year, Ohio State had the same record as Alabama and lost the Big 12 or the Big 10 championship game, and Alabama got in over them. The only time, and I'm pretty sure that Alabama team in 2017, the only team not to make their league championship game and get in the Final Four. What else we want to talk about before we go? By the way, I said earlier, if you were with me, we were talking about Trent Dilfer, the rumors with UAB. The rumors are true. He's been hired as the UAB coach, the next coach. Neil Brown now is expected to be back at West Virginia, where he was rumored to be on his way out. Hugh Freeze has moved in at Auburn. The coaches, the coaches most on the firing line right now, Pat Fitzgerald, who I like a lot at Northwestern, but this was just a tough year this year, and I don't know if he's going to survive it. Danny Gonzalez at New Mexico is going to have trouble. Butch Jones in his third try at Arkansas State, probably gone. Jeff Hafley at Boston College could be in trouble. Billy Napier, I think, will survive at Florida. He's only got a year under his belt. You heard of some rumors, a new rumor today that I had not known. I don't call it a rumor. The possibility of Sam Hartman transferring to Florida for his 9th college football season. Tom Allen in Indiana, who had a great season a couple years ago with Indiana, he's rumored to be in trouble. Greg Schiano, his second go around at Rutgers, could be in trouble. Who else here? Dana Holgerson is rumored to be in trouble at Hawaii. Tommy Chang at Houston, and Tommy Chang at Hawaii. Some of the names that are being kicked around as possibly on their way out. So some other jobs still coming open here. And here's the jobs we still have open, by the way, before we wrap up. I hate this because now I got to figure out who the teams are. They don't give me the. Well, who are you? Oh, Liberty. UNLV. I don't know who that is. I should have opened up a different app, apparently. Cincinnati, obviously, is open. Tulsa is open. Oh, Wyoming. That's the other one I couldn't figure out. Can't figure that one out. Sorry. Those are the open positions so far. Oh, there's another couple. Bill Clark, UAB, we just talked about, but that will change with the hiring of Trent Dilfer today. South Florida is still open with some rumors about Chucky getting that job. And Colorado, not believing the Neon Dion rumors going to Colorado in any way, shape, or form. What do you got here? Ohio State won the Big Ten that year. They leapfrogged Bama into the playoff regardless. Ohio State's crutch was getting blown out by Purdue, their only loss. They were leapfrogged by Alabama, right? What else we got here? Alabama was number 1 when they lost to Auburn, but the committee only dropped them to 4. I do remember that, right? So again, to me, getting your conference championship game should mean something. Right? I can't put Ohio State in over anybody who got to their conference championship and lost with the same record. I'm sorry, with a better record. USC, I could see getting pushed out. 2 losses to the same team. Not going to bode well for them. In any event, guys, been a good hour and a half. A lot of good, lively commentary early. We had some new people with us tonight. We're happy you guys were with us. Thanks to Alan and CA. Carlos, obviously. Anthony Price, who was with us earlier. Don Brown joined us. I got a lot of forehead guy. I loved having you with us here. It means you have a big forehead. I love it. Augustin, thank you. Alan, if I didn't say thank you. Dan Harris, thanks for stopping in today. Dan, wishing you well. Nothing but the best, buddy. Keep on keeping on. Guys, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talks College Football Huddle. We'll be back next week, and we'll have a Final Four. And will we have some controversy or not? We'll talk about it all right here next week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Championship Saturday. Well, Championship Friday and Saturday.